Welcome back for day 19 of 31 monsters in 31 days. Let's find out who we're making today. We are making a leprechaun. All right, let's get started. While we're sketching out the plan and making the basic blob shape that all the monsters in this series are built off of, I'm going to give you a bit of a history of leprechauns and the reason I included them on my monster list. If you want to see slower step-by-step instructions on how to make this basic blob form, check out this video. For details on how I do my paper mache, check out this video. Both are linked in the description. You probably already know that the leprechaun comes to us from Irish folklore. They like rainbows and pots of gold and lucky charms. So why would I include this impish little guy in this series about terrible monsters? Well, in older Irish folklore, leprechauns could sometimes be menacing tricksters. They might grant you a wish or give you a treasure, but there was probably a twist attached, warning folks about how greed can lead to downfall. All that aside, the leprechaun made it onto my list because of the 1993 film and the 7 sequels that followed. In this film, which was Jennifer Aniston's first, Warwick Davis stars as the titular leprechaun, and he goes on a vengeful rampage in search of his lost pot of gold. Critics, probably reasonably, panned the movie, but this cheesy horror film developed a cult following. This prompted the theatrical release of the sequel the next year. The sequel flopped in theaters, but that didn't stop them from making 6 more Leprechaun movies and releasing them direct to video. So it's the Leprechaun movie franchise that caused me to put leprechauns on my monster list. I'm not going to directly try to copy Warwick Davis's character or anything, but I do think that making a creepy leprechaun is going to be really silly and fun. My next step is to make the leprechaun's eyeballs. I'll need those to dry before I can add them to his face. I'm sculpting these with DOS air dry clay. This is my favorite air dry clay. I'll leave a link for this clay and my other supplies in the video description. I sculpted this set of eyeballs and set them aside to dry. Then I made the leprechaun a bunch of pointy teeth. I found a really fast way to make teeth is just to roll the clay between my palms. And then it makes this shape which I can cut in half to make 2 teeth at a time. We'll set these aside to dry too. So now I'm going to start the leprechaun's hat. I love making tiny hats. I cut these 4 pieces out of a cereal box. I'm just going to start by gluing the crown of the hat together here. I'm sticking some tape on there just to hold the joint in place while the glue cools. Next, we're going to add this little oval on top. I'll stick a few bits of tape on it to hold it in place, and then add some hot glue from the inside. Finally, we'll tape the brim of the hat. I've made it in 2 pieces so that when I stick it together, the brim will tilt up a bit. I'm gluing and taping the brim together and then attaching the crown. Then I'm covering the whole assembly in paper mache. Now here are my dry eyeballs. I'm smoothing them out with one of these nail files I like for this job. This makes the eyes perfectly smooth. Just remember to protect your lungs if you're going to sand dry clay yourself. I'm going to make a little pair of ears now. I've cut these 2 pointy ear shapes out of a cereal box, and now I'm cutting in a small slit to create a dart. I'm putting a bit of glue on there, then overlapping the legs of the dart to give the cardboard some shape. I'm using a bit of hot glue to beef up the top edge of each ear. I'm going to make a small nose now too. I've got this lopsided kite shape cut out of cereal box. Now I'm gluing a small ball of foil into that folded cardboard, then using some tape to bridge the seam there. I'm gluing on 2 little nostrils as well. And then I'm covering the nose and those little ears in paper mache. While all those little bits are drying, I'm going to hot glue his eyeballs onto the dry blob. I'm going to paint the eyes white, then give him some green irises. I've used an office hole punch to cut pupils out of some black sticker paper, and then I'm placing them on with tweezers. I'm also giving him a few little eye capillaries with some red paint. When the eye paint has dried, I'm going to use some UV resin to give the eyes a nice glossy protective top coat, and then of course making sure to fully cure the resin. Now I'm painting the inside of the leprechaun's mouth before I put the teeth on there. On a lot of my projects, you see me make gums when I put teeth in, but I've decided to skip it this time and just cover where his gums would be with this smile. I'm using this black fabric to make the leprechaun's lips. I'm cutting the fabric into some appropriately sized strips. From here, I'm basically just treating the fabric like paper. I'm saturating it with my paper mache paste. Then I'm twisting up a scrap of paper towel, placing that onto the glue-soaked fabric, and then folding it inside the fabric like a little taco. And I'll pick that up and wrap it onto my leprechaun's face, smoothing it down with some brown paper. I'll repeat that process to make a bottom lip, and then I'll use a wad of paper to make him a little chin. The hat is dry now, but I want to add a buckle and a hat band. I cut the little buckle shape out of a bit of cardboard. To make the hat band, I'm using some thicker paper from one of my kids' school scrapbooks. I've torn a strip of paper, I'm coating that in glue, folding it for thickness and straight edges. Then I'm threading it through the buckle and sticking it onto my hat. Back to my little leprechaun here. I'm making a lower eyelid by folding up some brown paper and wrapping it around his eyeball. I did both of them, but then I must have got distracted because I went and hot glued his ears on. Then I went back and did the upper eyelids. And then I went and used some paper mache to go around the ears. I actually need to let this dry now before I stick on the nose, so we're letting him dry. When he's dry, I can use some hot glue to stick on his nose. You can see I've carved a bit off the back to make it fit nicer. Then I'm blending that in with one last little bit of paper mache before letting it dry. When the paper mache is dry, I'm going to base coat him all over in black. I'm going to use that dry brush paint technique on this guy. I have this video, which is a great resource on the topic. I'll link that in the description. I used yarn to make his hair and beard. I don't have time to go exactly into how I did that, except to tell you that I crocheted a base, looped some yarn into the stitches, and then brushed it out with a pet brush. I hot glued that all to his face, added his hat, and then a little bit of black felt on the bottom as a finishing touch, and we are done. Here's our finished leprechaun. Let me know what you think of him in the comments. Please give this video a like. Anytime you interact, it really helps me out, helps my content find new people. Even commenting a random emoji is awesome. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss tomorrow's video. You can see it ad-free on my Patreon. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.